Okay, guys, so I figured I'd do a little different video. This is a ranking video of all of the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers studio albums. I really enjoy watching these, and I figured I would make my own. Just some rules. Most people who do Tom Petty include his solo work. I'm not. I'm just including the 13 Heartbreaker studio albums, which means no Full Moon Fever, no Wildflowers, obviously, no Mudcrutch, no Traveling Wilburys, no live albums, no compilations. Though I rarely recommend the playback box set. It has a lot of um, hidden gems on that. I also recommend Tom's book. But with that said, here are my rankings from least good to best. Now, I say least good because I think they're all good. So just because something's last doesn't mean I don't like it. I like all these albums, but someone's got to be last, and that is going with Hypnotic Eye. Now, I picked this last because it's, I think, what's it called, Shadow People is the best song on here. It's none of these songs are bad, but for the most part, if I'm gonna listen to a Tom Petty album, it's not gonna be Hypnotic Eye. It's most of these songs, again, they're good, but I think overall, if I had to go on a desert island, this would not be the one I would bring with me. And it is the last studio album with the Heartbreakers, so. These are my personal CDs, so some of them are a little banged up. Here we got, of course, we got Mojo, his second to last album. Look on the back. I think Mojo irked out Hypnotic Eye just because of the, it has more songs. Running Man's Bible is really good. Something Good Coming. I think those songs alone just put it ahead of Hypnotic Eye. Again, all these songs are pretty decent. It's a long album, especially compared to his earlier work. And I know I've seen some lists of Tom Petty where these are decently high, but I like the classic stuff more. Here we got, I believe this is 11, with Into the Great Wide Open. This album always kind of reminded me of a poor man's Full Moon Fever. Like, it has that really polished, poppy production that Full Moon Fever has, but it just seems like a step below it. Obviously, it has a few hits on here. Learning to Fly, Into the Great Wide Open. King's Highway became an acoustic song that Tom would do. Out in the Cold, You and I Will Meet Again, and there's some good stuff on here. Making Some Noise, Built to Last is actually really good as well. This is an album I'll throw on any day of the week, and it's better than 99% of the other stuff out there, but it's Tom's 11th best album, apparently. Okay, so this album is the album I bought right before I started up college. It's The Last DJ. This one's pretty good for a later release. It's one of his later stuff. It was like early 2000s, I believe. This is kind of his angry album about the music business, especially stuff like Money Becomes King and Joe. Dreamville is really good. Of course, the title track is another one about the music industry. Can't go wrong with this one. All these songs are pretty decent. I don't think there's any terrible songs on here. You can't stop the sun. Maybe the weakest drop, but Can't Stop the Sun. But anyway, The Last DJ, I'm going with number 10. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. This one is called Echo. It doesn't say Echo on the cover anywhere, or really anything on a cover. This one I felt bad putting so low because I actually think it's quite underrated. But all these songs, this is like kind of like, a lot of it just seems like Room at the Top is very good. It's a strong opener. This is probably, might be, that I haven't timed these, but this is probably his longest album. So if you want bang for your buck, this is good. I really like Rhino Skin, Lonesome Sundown, Echo. Those are some of the highlights for me. It's more of like the kind of more like the mellow Tom that we're used to at this point in his career. Not the best album cover, I will say. Okay, You're Gonna Get It is my next choice. This is the second album that Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers released. And I believe the main song that most average people are going to know from this is probably Listen to Your Heart. The band's still finding their way here. It's not bad for a solo, for a sophomore album. When the Time Comes, I like a lot. I really like Magnolia. Those are both just super underrated songs that I feel like the average radio listener is not going to know. All solid, really, honestly. You're Gonna Get It's really good. He just seems pissed off in this album, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 down. Here's the 7th last, if we want to say. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, She's the One. This one I think usually people rank pretty low in the videos I've seen, but I quite like it. I believe most of these songs are from like the Wildflowers solo album. They're kind of like leftovers. And the song Walls was a hit for Tom, which most, at that point in most artists' career, when they're been ranking records since the 70s, this came out in like the late 90s, mid 90s. You know, it's unusual for him, but that video was everywhere at the time. And I think sometimes his album gets a little flack because Walls and Angel Dream are repeated. But there's a few covers on here, so, but I don't know, from top to bottom, I do enjoy this one a lot. There's like a Beck cover on here, which is Asshole, and Change the Locks, which is another cover. But underrated album from the movie She's the One, which no one remembers that movie, but this album is very decent. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're down to the top 6 right now. These are my top 6 albums. So here we go. At number 6, it is the solo album. Now, let's go off right at the bat. This song has track number 10, which is American Girl. One of the greatest rock songs of all time. So I could not rate this album much lower than it is, just because of that song. Also got Breakdown, which is an amazing song. 2, Breakdown and American Girl, that alone, the rest of the album can be trashed, but it's not. Rockin' Around With You, nothing special. A lot of this is like rough, kind of like really finding their way, like Rockin' Around With You, Hometown Blues. Wild One is very good. Anything that's rock and roll. You know, this is Tom as a very young man. Tom and the Heartbreakers is a very young band. I really like Mystery Man. Cool rhythm to that. Very good debut album, and it only gets better from here. Now, I can, if anyone actually watches this, I can see the internet. The comments, not agree very much with this one. Here is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Let Me Up, I've Had Enough. And it's with the whole band, kind of parts of their faces all mixed to make one. This album is not well received, and it wasn't well received by Tom either, but I don't know what to say, man. I think it's great. Especially Runaway Trains. That should be a radio hit. that should be up there with any of Tom's hits, and it's just not. But this is just like a kind of a bluesy southern rock album, and I like all of it really. Think about me, all mixed up, self-made man, and of course it ends up with the kind of funny song, "Let Me Up." I've had enough. Of course, with "Jamming Me," which is kind of another bit of a Tom's humor. Him and I believe co-written by Bob Dylan. I believe this one is like 87, 88, something like that. This is the album, I believe, this is going off the top of my head here, I believe this is the album he made right before he made, of course, Full Moon Fever, which was huge, but this one really, especially for his 80s albums, this one really gets forgotten about, and I think it's underrated, obviously, because I have it at number 5. All right, top 4. Long After Dark, with the Red Album. This one I would have actually rated even higher than this, and I think this is also another sort of a controversial pick here. I think I got my lines mixed up a little bit, so let me just do a little adjusting here. I'm sorry. Long After Dark starts with One Story Town, great opener. You Got Lucky, Deliver Me, Change of Heart. These are all great. I think the song A Wasted Life is just kind of drags for me, and it's just, it might be my least favorite 80s Tom song, believe it or not. And for that alone, I kind of put it there between the fourth of my top 4. But Same Old You, Between Two Worlds. Again, this is another one that I don't think Tom was so crazy about, but hey, this is my opinion and I'm sticking to it. Long After Dark. So, believe it or not, I got the Torpedoes. And I think most people would put this number 1 as far as his Heartbreakers albums go. And I have it at number 3. Which is not bad at all. But this is definitely his probably most famous Heartbreakers album. You know, his solo albums are actually more famous, which is kind of odd. But most of the people are going to know these songs. Refugee, Here Comes the Losers, Here Comes My Girl, Even the Losers, I'm sorry. Century City, Don't Do Me Like That. These are all pretty good. What Are You Doing in My Life? I mean, real good. This is a great fucking album. Straight up. I actually would recommend that if you want to get into Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, and you want to buy a Heartbreakers album, not a solo album, I would actually recommend this. But my top 2, and I feel like this is at the very bottom of some people's list, but for me it's number 2, Southern Accents. I love how different all the songs are on this. Tom Notori, he grew up in Florida, but moved to California pretty early on in his career. But for this album, he kept running around his old stomping grounds, and these are all so different. The song Rebels, Ain't Nothing to Me, Don't Come Around Here No More, of course, Southern Accents, Make It Better, Spike, Dogs on the Run, Mary's New Car, Best of Everything. Just every single one of those songs is completely different, than the other one. They're so different. And I really like them all. They all have their own little, kind of theme to them. There's no weak link. I guess Spike is hardly considered a song, more of a little funny little number there, but I really I think Rebels might be my favorite Tom opener, honestly. Check That Song. Another song that I don't believe was really a hit, but should have been a big hit. But Southern Accents, number 2. And unless you're not familiar with Tom's catalog, you already figured out what number 1 is. And here it is, Hard Promises. Now, this is the album where the record company wanted to charge more for CDs, or Tom's CDs. And Tom straight up said, "You're not doing that. You're keeping my album the same price as they've always been. You're not charging the consumer more." Because, man, Tom was a good guy, man. He really could have just said, screw it. Let's get some more money. But no, he wasn't about that. And that's the thing. That's a lot of musicians. You know, they're not the best people, but Tom really, I really feel he really was. But anyway, to me, this is a definitive Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers album. It has everything. It has like it's ballads. It has rockers. It has hits. What more can you want from a Heartbreakers album? I'm trying to get my reflection at this freaking CD. Of course, it has The Waiting, which is probably by far the biggest hit on here, and it might be one of my favorite Heartbreaker songs. And A Woman in Love, just the anguish of losing somebody. Got who would write a job about a minimum wage security guard but Tom Petty. We got that in track number 3, of course. The Night Watchman, something big, just great storyteller. King's Road, Think About You is very good. Insider, duet with Stevie Nicks, Criminal Kind, and You Can Still Change Your Mind, man. Like Tom, he really tapped into the human emotions. You know, he knew how to write songs, he knew how to write stories, and he is still missed to this day. So that's my ranking of the Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers studio albums. Let me see if I can kind of. There we go, top to bottom. Glorious photo, isn't that? Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching.